Hey guys, welcome back. A new year this time, not just a new show. Roger is here with myself and we've got some special topics coming up for you. We're going to go over some of the things that are happening right now, which happen pretty much every single year when it comes to January resolutions and how you can actually make a success if in the past it's been something where you've tried and potentially just fallen off a little bit. First off though, Happy New Year, Roger. Happy New Year to yourself.
Yeah, it's a quick turnaround, and but I think this year we're really motivated to take the podcast further. With the impact and the support that you guys have and feedback that you guys have given us, but we certainly identified that it would be strange not to start the first podcast of the year with at least identifying what goes on this time of year. People on one hand really motivated. I think it's from the excess of Christmas and the detox seems very attractive. But then also it's a case of the classic. This is New Year, New You. This is the time. The classic of the last year's, for many people, last year's resolutions of the smoking and the weight, and that goes. So we thought of starting off with the idea really of acknowledging where people are at the moment, and then also going from what are people, what's going on with people's decision making at the moment.
Yeah, there was an interesting stat I saw the other day, and I don't know where it was from. It's in an article, so I don't know where it was cited from or anything like that, but it said that 80% of New Year's resolutions are health related and 70% of New Year's resolutions fail.
Yeah.
And there's something going on there, and I notice a lot of times that specifically what I've seen with people speaking to me about health, about nutrition, about how they can train and everything, that it is an all or nothing mentality, which seems to set people off on the wrong foot to begin with. Have you seen anything different with that?
Yeah, I think what I see is that classic just knee-jerk reaction, is that Christmas people have been out of their routine. We dropped a couple of messages in between Christmas and New Year, and people lose track of what day it is.
Yeah.
They're in this no man's land. They're kind of out of their normal routine, and I think there is that element of, I'm now back to normal routine. It kind of gives a bit of a feel-good factor because people know where they are. Maybe they feel a little bit sluggish because of over Christmas, or they've been delaying stuff. Going, the classic. Every diet starts on a Monday. It comes to Christmas time. Oh, in the new year, And then they get bombarded with the new DVD comes out from a celeb.
Yeah.
So there is also this marketing campaign that this is the time. The gyms hit people. So I think the trend just for a lot of people is that there is that feeling of new year, new slate, and so this is things. But I think there is also that knee-jerk reaction. It's almost anticipated that everyone does that.
Yeah, this year especially with New Year's Eve being on a Monday, it then meant the New Year started on a Tuesday, which a lot of people were hung over on. So people wanted to actually start on the 7th, on the Monday, which is actually 7 days already into the New Year. Given where Christmas fell, being on the Tuesday, Christmas Eve being the Monday, people finished the week before.
Yeah.
So it's actually been a longer period
and I think
than
it's
normal.
that week, from the Monday the 7th through the last week, that most people have really felt that they're getting back into a normal routine.
Yeah.
So I'd ask the question is, do we fall back into normal routine, so nothing's going to change, or do we also use the new year as a motivation? But then people fall into the fads and the myths and the advertising or that, and I think they don't make conscious decisions how they're going to go about.
Yeah, there's big motivation here, especially at this new year. I'm reading a book at the moment by David Goggins, who's a Navy SEAL. He passed the SEAL test with 2 broken legs, and you think when we get to where we think is our limit, we're actually only at 50%, and there's a lot more that we're capable of. And he talks about motivation. It's great to have motivation, and motivation though, that's the thing that will get you up in the morning, and that will get you to the door. But when ready to go out for that run, but when you open that door and it's chucking it down with rain and it's freezing cold, that will stop you there. You'll go back to the sofa and say, "I'll wait till tomorrow."
So what gets someone through their door?
But then there's inspiration, and we can talk about goals on the next show that we spoke about, but it's inspiration, knowing what you're actually going to get from that run, what step that is going to get you towards your goal. But when you're inspired, you open the door, you see that it's raining, you see that it's chucking it down, you're motivated, you're inspired, you go back to the bedroom and put another layer on and then go out.
Yeah.
And that was quite interesting to.
So
to hear
what's some of the things that people are getting bombarded, or the myths, or the challenges that people are there? Because I know you've written particularly about this in your book, and some of the things that your observations are. So I'd be interested to know what they are.
Straight away, going to the gym regularly anyway, I've seen a lot of the new, and it's great to see new people there. They've got just as much right to be there as I've got to be there, as you've got to be there, as anyone's got to be there. And what I hate, first off, is these people say, "Oh, there's these newbies there. Give them till Valentine's Day and they'll be gone." But no, I really hope some of them start and actually continue. And
there must be a percentage you do.
I started on a resolution, we look what happened there. But I see people getting simple things in my mind wrong, which obviously aren't simple for people. Just like when you watch Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, every question is simple if you know the answer.
Yeah.
But going on the cardio equipment just to lose fat and thinking that lifting weights is going to make you bulky. And I cover this a lot in my book, which is essentially the book that I had before, but aimed at females now.
Yeah.
And when we look at that, hormonally, it's not going to happen by accident, lifting weights.
No, and I have quite a few
muscle.
Patients who then go, I'm thinking I'm going to the gym, and I'll do some of the weights, but I don't do anything because I don't want to get big. And it's like, to get big, I mean, to get big, it's a whole different ball game. You're not going to get big by just going 2 or 3 times a week and doing some weights.
Yeah,
it's a different kettle of fish. I
mean, for guys, it doesn't happen overnight, and then women have got a lot lower testosterone, which essentially, taking a lot of science out of it, is the hormone which helps with that muscle.
So the advice would be then to go to the gym and use everything at the gym, or find what you enjoy.
What you enjoy is going to be the thing that people are going to stick to. But lifting weights, understanding that when you get into a weight strength routine, you're actually going to burn calories throughout the day. Not many calories more, but a few calories more. And also you're going to put on a little bit more muscle over time. Not loads to get bulky or anything like that, but that's going to mean you burn more calories.
Well, and also from our perspective, you're going to start firing different muscle groups. You're going to get different support, different feedback into the body. You suddenly feel stronger. You feel that you're holding your posture better. You're walking a bit more upright. You probably minimally are, but you're getting a different feedback, and you get a feel-good factor.
And that posture as well, you can actually make yourself look like you've lost weight just by getting better posture.
Yeah.
And so mixing that in with chiropractic care, with going to the gym, with strength training, you can get better posture, which makes you sit upright more. Your chest is out, and your shoulders are right.
6-8 weeks, you're going to start noticing that.
Yeah,
you're going to feel it sooner, 2-3 weeks, but very quickly start giving you feedback. So the message is, it's not just about cardio, although most people don't do cardio during their everyday life. So ideally, some cardio, but don't shy away from the resistance machines. And what is your view of at least starting off with an assessment with a PT? Physical trainer and getting a program? Because I have a big thing with a lot of patients. They go and ideally they go with a mate. They go with a friend. They go. And we'd encourage that. But 3 or 4 weeks down the line, they're doing the same program, but they started off with different goals because they like to either have a chat or share equipment, and it's more fun to do it something. So with there's a lot of people who the myth is read this up off the internet, or I picked this up rather than use the trainers or that at the gym.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for every single trainer, purely because everyone is going to be at different levels. If you know there's a good trainer there who has a lot of good results, has a good track record, then yes, go to speak to them.
I'm just thinking more from a starting perspective rather than ideally someone working with a personal trainer one-on-one is going to be far better. But a lot of people go into the gym blind. So they do watch someone else and go, well, that looks all right. I'll do a bit of a bike because I can ride a bike. And so they're not necessarily using the full capability of what the gym's got to offer.
Yeah, and if someone is there doing something which you like, or there's someone there who's strong with doing squats and you want to know how to squat, don't be afraid to ask that person. 9 times out of 10, they're going to be actually fine about it. I know when I get asked about anything and I'm not a personal trainer in that gym, I'll be fine about opening up. And some of my friends who aren't actually trainers or haven't been personal trainers will be fine about talking about what they do, why they do it. But the cardio thing, if we go back to that, the big mistake people make there is doing too much without the strength training, which means essentially that yes, they will lose weight. but they will lose a lot of muscle
So
fibers.
use the gym. Don't be afraid to ask for advice, even from not necessarily from a PT, but from other people who are using the equipment. It's a great way to meet new people, and then you feel more welcome at the gym.
Exactly.
What about other myths?
Things that no pain, no gain. We
Yeah.
get this hashtag beast mode and all this, which I absolutely hate, and I used to do it all the time. A few years back, well, you need to go and kill a session, all these sorts of things, and it's in like the Instagram generation and stuff like that, where it's if you haven't got to the point where you can't walk down the stairs, and I used to be that trainer that done that with people. It was pointless. No one really wants that, purely because I say no one. That's generalising a lot, but a lot of people don't want that because if you're in pain. Like there's different sorts of pain. We know there's injury pain, and then there's going to be delayed onset of muscle soreness, which it's good to get a little bit. And starting a new program, you will get a little bit of pain. That's not going to be really able to be avoided.
Well, and I wouldn't use pain as the way to describe it. I would say it's feedback. It's that stiffness. It's actually like, oh, I can feel I've used the body in a different way. It should remind you of being a kid playing football or doing something which is you've got a memory of that. It's not I can't get out of bed or I've done something wrong.
Yeah.
So it's that feel good discomfort feedback rather than pain. True pain is a reaction of the body saying I'm protecting myself. Mm-hmm. So you've got to watch out. So I think some people
there's muscle soreness and pain.
Underestimate or overestimate that feedback.
And with that as well, you don't want it to be at the point where you can't train 7 days in a row because you're so sore from doing some squats.
Yeah.
It's going to just be detrimental.
Especially starting off.
Exactly. You don't want it to put you off. And I used to be that same person.
Guys that go straight off within 2 weeks, they've pulled a hammy. Now they can't train for 3 weeks. They're not going to be going again afterwards.
Exactly. Yeah. Another big thing is spot reducing fat, which again around this time of year, people they want to get their belly fat down and things like that. Now, first off, belly fat and fat around your vital organs are usually, with relations to visceral fat, internal fat is down to stress levels more than anything. And the body doesn't lose fat in one place.
No, it's the old, I'm going to do some abdominal work because therefore I want to lose the belly. Yeah. And it's like, you're going to get better abdominal function and that's going to help hold you in that.
But also remember that
your abdominal muscles don't use the fat right next to your abdominals.
All around. That'll go with the fat which is easiest to burn.
Yeah.
And also as well we have to remember that you've also got anti-rotational as a function of the abdominals. Then there's going to be staying upright as well, not just crunching. And then I bet you've had people come to you as well which have done a lot of crunches and then have got a bad back because the agonist antagonist.
Yeah, and just functions. Also technique wise, you know, they're all classic hooking the feet underneath something so they can do the full sit up, so they feel better. They've done 100 sit ups, but they've actually also overloaded the hip flexors.
Yeah, exactly.
And pulled on the lower back, and they've pulled a disc. And so it is exercising correctly, and.
I mean, you can build the abdominal muscles up just like other muscles, so you can see them at a higher body fat, but it's not going to burn fat in that specific position.
But when you run on the treadmill or you do an abdominal crunch, you're not taking your energy from different sources. It's still coming from the same source of your body.
And I think you'd probably be someone that says that. I definitely would say that I would love to be lying about that, but that is the truth. I would love to be able to say, I'm going to do loads of crunches and get a six-pack all year round, but unfortunately we have to put in a bit of graft around
and
the
I think
body.
You put a big one on that the stress element of that changes hormones hugely and has a big impact on that. But then also the going to the gym or exercising is a great way to counteract that adrenal stress overload. So actually it's
if
the
you
exercise.
Don't do too much.
Yeah, if the exercise, so you're not driving yourself further into that. So it's really the exercise is you are actually treating the underlying issue by counteracting the stress. You don't have to get too hooked up about that it's a specific exercise for a specific
muscle. On the others, I won't go through every single one.
I like the one you mentioned earlier. We said not all calories are the same.
Yeah, so not all calories are exactly the same, or or equal, as people say, all calories are equal, where essentially we know to lose weight, you have to be in a caloric deficit.
Yeah.
So you have to eat less calories than you burn. It's technically as simple as that. However, the stress thing, if you eat too little calories, too few calories, you put more stress on the body.
If you want to keep it simple, it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
If you want to look into it more
and get
it's
fat
way
loss
off the mark.
Yeah, and also with weight gain and things like that, where you look at people trying to put on weight.
Yeah.
As we've said, not everyone wants to lose weight, but putting on weight, and they go to grab 5 McDonald's or Burger King. That's not like going favourite the junk food.
And let's make it clear, we're also talking about health rather than just weight loss.
Yeah.
I knew a lady who was working in a job didn't like, was in a relationship which was not conducive to her to being at optimum, but was worried about her weight, so she would skip breakfast and lunch so that she could have a couple of glasses of wine. So calorie-wise, she said, calorie-wise, I'm fine. And so that basic formula,
Yeah.
she wasn't losing weight, she's hugely calorie deficit, but her stress levels are through the roof. So it's not only about calories.
It's what is in those calories as well, the nutrition.
It's how they delivered, what time, it is so much more complicated, and that's why working with someone more specifically is I think the big myth and the fad, what I don't like this time of year, is that there is a lot of protocols and a lot of systems out there which will give you some kind of feedback and benefit over, let's say 4, 5, 6 weeks. But 3-4 months down the line,
the extremeness.
You're either unhealthy or you've lost the weight, but now you're hooked into that you want to buy certain products. You're hooked into a protocol, but when you look at the products, they're scientific Frankenstein foods, and down the line there's going to be health consequences. So I think the message for me, I think people could really be very, very, I'm very concerned that people fall onto I want to lose weight, so they like what's on the scales, but it's the health element they're losing, and down the line there's a consequence for that. Exactly. You put in stress onto a system, and then you get the rebound, and that's when the body then takes over, and you get a consequence either from a health issue or the weight just bounces back up because it says, right, now I've got to take or get the nutrients back. So follow a whole food, nutrient rich diet which has an eye on your calories, I think is the
and I think as well, we mentioned before, we won't say names, it'll be obvious what it is, but there are certain groups that come along with, you pay to go there, you get weighed, and you get a diet protocol, so to speak. And I was on Instagram and I saw someone post, this looks like a really nice meal, and it was a big fry-up. It had steak, eggs, it had halloumi, it had fries, I don't know who had fries in their fry-up, but it had a little bit of veg as well, and some salad, and some sausages. And I looked at it and I said, all of this is one sin. And we could say about the wording in a minute, but I worked it out. And I'm using like portion sizes of like looking at it. But I was I was going on the lower levels.
Yeah.
And it worked out that it was about 1,000 calories. And I'm thinking, one sin, 1,000 calories. And then I just done a little bit more research just to see how many sins you could have a day. And it was between 5 and 15 depending on the program you were on. Now the problem is that if you have 5 sins, basing it on this meal, so you have this fry up 5 times a day, which a lot of people won't have, but if you did, you would have over 5,000 calories, and based on the average female maybe 1,500 to 2,000 and male between 2,000 and 2,500 calories, that's over double what a male would eat and treble what a female would eat on average per day. And the people that are trying to do these diets, they're trying. It's not their fault. There's a 2% success rate, and I can find the article if anyone wants to look at that, which talks about how they got about that success rate. And also, it's not the fault of the people that are trying, because they are trying. It's the system that is letting them down, again with the language.
They're following a protocol. The protocol delivers over a short space of time. We know then that most people's general overall lifestyle will take over again. And then what happens is down the line is repeat business, because they go, I fell off the wagon. I need to go back onto that program. And so the element of the wording, it becomes in, as you said, the idea of a sin and food being a sin. Sometimes the question of what foods are a sin versus what food they put put labels of sins on some good, wholesome, whole foods,
Mm-hmm.
but they allow certain, some programs will allow diet drinks are free, and when you look at what diet drinks are made out of, from a health perspective, and my concern is they don't always come from a health perspective, they're coming from a protocol which says we'll lose weight, and so people are, I think, starting those programs with the wrong vision. Wrong vision is I'm going to lose weight, rather than I'm going to become healthier and manage my weight. It's they've got to go together. So that's my concern.
And it's looking at the scales rather than how much focus have you got, how much energy, how alive do you feel essentially, and how much better is this health making your relationships with those people around you rather than just that number on the scale.
And I think they're going back and judging that over the first 4 or 5 weeks, where it really should be, this year my goal is.
Yeah.
And then what have I learned? And then next year I build on that. It's very that quick fix.
I think we can go into goals on the next episode, as we mentioned, but there are two more I want to just quickly go before we wrap up. And one of them is carbohydrates will make you fat. And again, this comes down to the scales. Now, what is in carbohydrates? Dependent on those, that's a broad spectrum of saying all carbohydrates here, but you are going to get some of the grains and the gluten side of things, which some people will react to, but they can react with any food in reality. Now, with carbohydrates, people take them out, they see a big drop on the scales, and then they put them in, they see a rise in the scales. But every gram of carbohydrate will bring in around 3 to 4 grams of water.
Yeah.
Which means that is going to go into the muscles, and that is going to keep you hydrated, going to get more energy. Carbohydrates are also the most efficient way of your body producing energy, because that is what it is. But when we take them out, we also take that water out.
Yeah,
so
when they drop that, they lose a lot of the glucose is stored in the liver. And when you drop one particle of glucose out, you lose 2 bottles of water. So when a lot of people go and they rapidly suddenly drop the carbs, they lose a lot of water. So 1 liter of water is 1 kg. So you suddenly go, wow, within a week or two, I've dropped to 2 kgs. This is great.
Plus the kilo of carbs. So
they've got to wait for the body to go into ketosis to get the benefit of feeling the energy from it. And a lot of people don't stick with that. So then they bounce.
And it's hard to stick to if you actually want to go out. We've got Riverside right by there, and you've got different restaurants there. It'd be very hard to stay in ketosis if you're eating out.
Which is ketosis is been, there's a lot of people who are very favourable and follow the ketogenic diet. But again, are you doing this for 3 or 4 weeks, or are you doing this for the next year?
It's a massive. I wouldn't do it tough because of how hard it is to stick.
There's always a debate about the effects of that on the kidneys and all sorts. So I think there's got to be a place for carbs, but again, what carbs, and how much?
Exactly, it goes to that wholesome side of things.
What the heck do I eat?
Exactly, and it goes into the previous shows with that. And again, we're talking about the average individual here, the general population, rather than saying we could go into ketosis with endurance athletes and things like that. And that's a whole nother
don't overload
conversation
carbs,
for another
but
day.
don't fear carbs as well.
Exactly. And the last one here is that eating after 6 p.m. is going to make you fat, which essentially is that calorie balance side of things. Eating in a calorie surplus is going to make you put on weight. Not necessarily just fat, but it's going to make you put on weight. And eating a calorie surplus over time will make you gain fat. It could also make you gain muscle if you're doing the right training.
Do you think that most people look at that, and a lot of programs suggest that purely because they know that that's when people add on that extra little bit of calories in the day that they don't really need, or it's that I'm going to watch a movie, or I'm going to I'm going to sit on the computer a bit, so I'll have a snack. Or it's a very easy way. Yeah, it's a very easy way to just add 300 or 400 calories, 500 calories to the daily consumption without really thinking
it's
much
easy
about
to start snacking that way.
Yeah.
And I think some programs try and minimize it for that, but they also set people up for failure because of that, because when they start getting tired, they start craving more. Now, if, for example, I had a guy start last week, he's an ex-military guy, he wants things pretty militant. And he said, I'm struggling because he's in Berlin, he has got clients in America, so he's working on US time. And he says it gets to 10, 11, 12 o'clock, and I'm just picking at chocolate that I know I shouldn't have because of how late it is, because he's tired.
Yeah.
And again, that's not to ban it totally or anything like that with the wording and stuff there, but he's essentially eating too many calories because he's tired. And what we've done is we had some sort of intermittent fasting protocol, we knew that it was protein sparing essentially. So we would have protein shakes, a couple of protein shakes during the day. One when he'd finished training, one early afternoon, and his first main meal was 5:30, and that meant that at 5:30 it had hardly any calories for the day, but he was full enough because of having the protein. And then he was having 2 meals at 10 o'clock, and then a bowl of oatmeal, some protein, and a bowl of oatmeal, some yogurt, and some fruit before bed, like an hour before bed. And he said literally in a week he's never felt so much energy, and also he's so full he doesn't even want to snack, just because of those cravings. So those programs that are saying that's the reason they're saying don't eat after 6 o'clock, there's a flaw in that, is that it's setting people up for failure unless they go to bed at about 8 o'clock or something, because people get tired.
It depends what their routine is. The trouble is these days people also are living in different times.
Shift work.
That kind of shift work. So it's very hard. It's very hard when articles come out and they give specifics, because they're speaking to a general population these days who aren't fitting that same norm.
Regardless, if people work out in the evening, and there was the big thing, eating after 6 p.m. makes you fat, but eating carbs after 6 p.m. was the big one, that your body is still going to utilize those carbs as if you were training at 10 a.m. or 6 p.m. Yes, we need to watch the caffeine intake and things like that later on in the evening if you're having a pre-workout or something, but your body needs those nutrients and those calories to aid recovery.
Again, it depends, not all carbs are the same, so it depends what the carb is.
And what I usually do as well, now I'm training for a marathon, and I like to do my run first thing in the morning. I'll have my oatmeal just like I gave to that guy. I have my oats before bed, and I don't need to have any food in the morning, because I'm not running a marathon in my sleep. It would be nice because it would be less painful, but I'm still going to have topped up glycogen stores, enough to go out and do a run.
Well, and going back to the fads is what works for you. You can play with these things. You can experiment and see what works for you, because you're an individual, and it depends on how it fits in with everything else. So people are looking at, do this one thing, but what does the whole picture look like?
Exactly. And I think with any myth, it's good to get someone's advice, and what I say isn't necessarily going to be gospel. It's not going to be 100%. It's essentially my opinion backed on over a decade of work in this industry and a lot of research. Just like there's going to be a lot to back up what you say, but everything is going to be based on the individual. So it's getting that individual advice. And again, if any of you guys have myths or things that you believe are myths, just drop us a message. We can always give our opinion throughout.
Yeah, we're more than happy to send some emails and correspond, in between our podcasts.
Definitely.
Which means that next week our plan is goals. Some people might be resetting goals. The cynic in me comes out, and get down to the real nitty gritty of what's the goal how do we goal set for the year, and keep us on track. So we look forward to that.
Cool.
So until next week, send that feedback in. What myths, what fads, what's working, what have you observed out there? We might have picked up a few things, but what have you picked up? It'll be very interesting to know. So have a great week. We look forward to catching up with you next week, and get ready for writing some goals next week. We'll see you then.
See you there. Bye bye.